I recently finished reading The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and I have to say it's one of the best books I've read about managing money. What makes it stand out is that it doesn't dive into specific investment strategies or promise ways to beat the market. Instead, it focuses on the psychological aspects of money, how our thoughts, emotions, and attitudes influence our financial decisions. It's a refreshing take on personal finance because it doesn't just teach you the how of money, but the why behind it. What I really liked about this book is how it combines practical advice with deep insights into human behavior. Housel explains that success with money isn't just about understanding the technical side of things like stocks or bonds, but about having the right mindset. It's about how we view wealth, risk, and success. The author makes the case that financial success often comes down to simple principles like patience, emotional control, and making thoughtful decisions over time, not rushing for quick wins or trying to time the market. Reading this book felt like both an entertaining journey and a source of profound wisdom. It's not filled with complex finance jargon, which makes it approachable for everyone, whether you're new to managing money or already experienced. Instead of focusing on what you should buy or sell, it teaches you how to think about money in a way that will help you make better decisions in the long run. In this video, I'm going to share 5 rules to make money based on The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. These lessons will help you understand how our behaviors and emotions can impact our financial lives, and how changing your mindset can make all the difference when it comes to building wealth. If you're interested in learning not just how to handle your finances, but why your mindset plays such a huge role in your financial success, then stick around for the lessons from this book. Why do people often feel scared to make decisions, especially when it involves taking risks? It's because decision-making usually comes with some level of risk, and the idea of taking risks can be frightening. People might be afraid of the unknown, worried about making the wrong choice, or just overwhelmed by having too many options to choose from. In the book, the author talks about 2 things that can have a big impact on someone's life: luck and risk. Luck is something unpredictable that can affect the outcome of events, while risk is the potential danger or harm that could come from making a certain decision. Both luck and risk are important in many areas of life, and they are especially influential when it comes to achieving financial success. The first lesson about money in the book focuses on the idea that financial success isn't just about having the right technical skills. It's also about understanding soft skills like luck, risk, and knowing when you have enough. The author explains that luck can play a role in how successful you become financially, but it's usually the result of taking smart risks and making informed decisions. For example, the author tells the story of David Bach, a self-made millionaire and best-selling author. David took a big risk early in his career by quitting his job as a financial advisor to start his own financial planning business. At the time, he had no clients, no office, and no guarantee that it would succeed. But he believed in his vision and was willing to take that risk. His gamble paid off, and his business became very successful. David then went on to write several best-selling personal finance books. This shows that while luck played a role, it was David's decision to take a calculated risk that really helped him build his wealth. The book also talks about the importance of knowing when to stop, or when enough is enough. The author warns that it's easy to become too focused on always wanting more, which can lead to risky decisions and failure. He shares the story of John Paul DeJoria, the co-founder of John Paul Mitchell Systems and Patron Tequila. DeJoria had a tough start in life, even being homeless at one point, but he built a very successful business. However, he got caught up in the idea of always seeking more, which led him to take on too much debt and invest in risky ventures. Eventually, this caused him to lose everything and have to rebuild from scratch. The author stresses that understanding the risks involved in financial decisions is key. It's not just about taking risks, but also being smart about the risks you take. Without considering the consequences, taking too many risks can lead to failure. While it's important to take some calculated risks to build wealth, it's also vital to know when you've achieved enough and when to stop. Being content with what you've already achieved and understanding your financial goals can help you make better, more sustainable choices for long-term success. Moving on to the next one of the 5 lessons about money from the book, The Psychology of Money, it says that getting rich requires taking risks and being optimistic, but staying rich requires the opposite. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel discusses the idea that becoming wealthy often requires taking risks and maintaining an optimistic mindset. Entrepreneurs and investors typically need to take chances, trust in their potential, and believe in their vision to build their wealth. However, the book also highlights a crucial difference. While taking risks is necessary for getting rich, staying rich requires a more cautious approach. To keep the wealth you've built, you need to be more careful, avoid unnecessary risks, and always have a realistic view of the potential downsides of any investment or business move. One story that illustrates this point is that of A.K. Batista, a Brazilian entrepreneur who, at one point, was one of the richest men in the world. Batista made his fortune through the mining and oil industries, and he quickly became a symbol of financial success. He was known for his ambitious goals and his bold, often risky business strategies. However, his empire began to crumble in 2012 when his flagship company, OGX, filed for bankruptcy. Over the next few years, other companies in his portfolio also faced serious financial trouble, and by 2018, Batista was forced to declare bankruptcy. The key reason for Batista's downfall was his willingness to take huge risks without fully understanding the potential consequences. He made overly optimistic predictions about the future of his companies and invested heavily in untested technologies and ventures. This sense of overconfidence led him to make decisions based on hope and belief rather than careful analysis and risk management. When his bold bets didn't pay off, his financial empire quickly collapsed. Batista's story is a powerful reminder that, while boldness and optimism may help you get started on the path to wealth, they can also be dangerous if you don't balance them with caution. In fact, staying wealthy over the long term is less about being bold and more about being thoughtful and cautious. Housel's lesson here is that it's essential to understand the risks you're taking and to always have a backup plan in case things don't go as expected. For those who want to maintain wealth, it's important to remember that avoiding unnecessary risks is just as important as taking calculated risks in the first place. This means being more cautious when it comes to high-stakes investments or big decisions that could put your financial security in jeopardy. While it's easy to get caught up in the idea of always going after bigger returns or new opportunities, it's often more effective to focus on preserving and growing wealth steadily. Another important aspect of staying rich is understanding that the world of investing in business is unpredictable. No matter how much success you've had, you can't control everything. Market shifts, economic downturns, and unexpected challenges can all impact your wealth. So it's important to be prepared for tough times. Being realistic about the potential risks and understanding that things might not always go as planned can help you make smarter choices, even when things look uncertain. In the end, the lesson from Batista's fall from grace is that the same traits that help you achieve success, like optimism, vision, and risk-taking, can also lead to failure if you're not careful. It's essential to balance ambition with caution, to continuously reassess your investments, and to recognize when it's time to protect what you've already built rather than chase after more at any cost. For long-term wealth, it's not just about growing your money, it's about safeguarding it and making smart, informed decisions that prioritize security over excitement. The next idea in the psychology of money is about the importance of paying the price to achieve financial success. This means that to build wealth, you need to be willing to make sacrifices today to secure a better financial future. A great example of this is Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people in the world. Even though he's extremely rich, he lives a simple and frugal life. Buffett saved and invested carefully throughout his life, understanding that to reach his big financial goals, he had to be disciplined with his money. He lives in a modest house in Omaha, Nebraska, which he bought for just $31,500 in 1958. He also drives a modest car and prefers to start his day with a cheap breakfast from McDonald's, even though he could afford much fancier meals. You might wonder why Buffett, with all his money, eats at McDonald's instead of going to a high-end restaurant. While it might seem odd, his frugal habits are part of the reason he has become so wealthy. He doesn't just keep his personal expenses low, he also ensures that his company, Berkshire Hathaway, avoids unnecessary spending, like on luxury perks for executives or private jets. Buffett is known for being careful with money, and this approach has played a huge role in his success. He has even shared tips for living frugally, like buying a house that costs less than what you can afford, choosing a long-term mortgage, and keeping your cars for a long time to save money. He also advises against spending money on expensive hobbies or things you don't really need. Instead, he suggests focusing on what truly adds value and happiness to your life. By living below his means, Buffett has been able to save more, invest wisely, and build his fortune over time. The author also talks about the importance of starting to invest as early as possible. The earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow and compound. This can result in a large amount of wealth over the years, even if you start with small amounts. The book highlights the benefits of passive investing, especially during times of inflation. In these situations, active investing strategies can be risky, so it's better to invest in things like low-cost index funds or exchange-traded funds, ETFs. These allow you to spread your investments across many different stocks and bonds, reducing your risk while still having a good chance for long-term growth. The author also recommends investing in assets that tend to do well during inflation, like gold, real estate, or treasury inflation-protected securities. Tips. These can help protect your money from losing value during inflationary times. The main point of this lesson is that anyone can achieve financial success, but it requires paying the price. This means making sacrifices now, such as cutting back on spending, working extra hours to earn more money, or investing in your education and skills to improve your career. While it might feel hard to make these sacrifices in the short term, the long-term rewards are worth it. By living below your means and making smart financial choices today, you can create a secure and independent future for yourself. In other words, by paying the price now, you can enjoy a much brighter financial future later. Moving on to the next lesson from The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel emphasizes the importance of patience and long-term thinking when it comes to building wealth. Morgan Housel argues that patience is a cornerstone of financial success. In today's fast-paced world, where we are constantly bombarded with headlines about quick riches and fast profits, it's easy to fall into the trap of wanting immediate results. However, Housel stresses that true wealth is not created overnight. It's the result of steady, consistent actions taken over the long term. Financial success doesn't come from making impulsive decisions or jumping into every investment opportunity that promises quick returns. Instead, it comes from a disciplined approach that focuses on sustainable growth. For example, one key concept in The Psychology of Money is the power of compounding, which Housel believes is one of the most powerful forces in finance. Compounding refers to the process where the returns on an investment start generating their own returns. Over time, this snowball effect can dramatically increase wealth. Even if you start with small amounts, the longer your money has to grow, the larger your wealth becomes. Housel encourages readers to think about time as an ally, not an obstacle, in the journey to financial success. A real-world example of the power of compounding is the story of Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors of all time. Buffett's wealth didn't come from trying to time the market or making speculative bets. Instead, he focused on long-term investments in companies that had solid fundamentals and growth potential. Through his patience and commitment to letting his investments grow over decades, Buffett has amassed one of the largest fortunes in the world. Another example from the world of investing is Peter Lynch, one of the most successful mutual fund managers in history. Lynch was known for his long-term investment strategy, focusing on companies with strong growth prospects. He famously said, "The key to making money in stocks is not to get scared out of them." Lynch's approach was simple yet effective. He looked for businesses he understood and believed in, and he held on to those investments through market ups and downs. By avoiding the temptation to chase short-term trends, Lynch delivered impressive returns for his investors over decades. Housel explains that the key to patience is understanding that wealth accumulation is a slow process. In fact, many successful investors made their fortunes not by chasing hot trends or quick profits, but by sticking to their strategy, ignoring short-term market fluctuations, and letting time do the heavy lifting. It's about having the discipline to remain focused on long-term goals and resisting the urge to make hasty decisions based on short-term market movements. He also points out that the most successful people often don't have the highest level of intelligence or the most sophisticated strategies. They simply have the patience to stay the course. As Housel puts it, the most important thing is not how much you earn or how much you save, but how long you keep it. Ultimately, the lesson here is clear. True financial success is built on patience. By making informed, long-term decisions and allowing compounding to work its magic, you can create wealth that will continue to grow over time. Wealth isn't about immediate gratification. It's about making consistent, thoughtful choices that pay off in the future. Patience, combined with a clear strategy, is the key to building lasting financial success. Another important lesson from Housel's book is the critical role of emotional control in making sound financial decisions. Housel highlights that emotions such as fear, greed, and impatience can cloud judgment, leading to poor investment choices. In the world of finance, emotions are often a person's worst enemy. They can trigger rash decisions that deviate from a well-thought-out financial plan, especially when market conditions are unpredictable or turbulent. Housel emphasizes the need for emotional discipline when dealing with financial matters. This is particularly important during times of market volatility, when prices fluctuate wildly and investors can easily get swept up in the emotional roller coaster of the market. Fear of losing money or greed for potential gains can cause people to make impulsive decisions, such as buying during a market rally or selling during a downturn, often at the worst possible times. Take, for example, the story of the dot-com bubble in the late 1990s. During this period, many investors, caught up in the excitement of the new internet revolution, bought into overinflated technology stocks without considering the fundamentals of the companies behind them. The fear of missing out, FOMO, was palpable, and the market was flooded with speculative investments in tech startups, many of which had little to no track record of profitability. This rush to buy into the hype was driven by an emotional response rather than sound financial reasoning. When the bubble inevitably burst in 2000, many people were left holding the bag, suffering heavy financial losses. The lesson here is clear. Emotional reactions, whether driven by excitement or panic, can often lead to disastrous investment decisions. Investors who were swept up by the euphoria of the bubble were not thinking critically about the actual value of the stocks they were purchasing. In contrast, investors who maintained a more rational, level-headed approach during the same period often fared better in the long run. They resisted the urge to buy into overhyped stocks and stuck to their investment strategies, even when the market was overheating. Housel advises that successful investors maintain this calm, rational mindset, especially when the market is volatile. This means not giving in to the pressure to act impulsively, but rather sticking to a disciplined investment strategy that aligns with long-term goals. One notable example of this approach is Warren Buffett, who is known for his emotional control in the face of market turmoil. During periods of significant market downturns, such as the 2008 financial crisis, Buffett remained composed and stuck to his value investing strategy. He famously advised, "Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful." This approach has allowed him to buy valuable assets at discounted prices when others were panicking, ultimately helping him achieve tremendous long-term success. Housel explains that the key to avoiding emotional decision-making is to recognize that volatility is a natural part of investing and to accept that markets will go up and down over time. The best way to deal with this volatility is not to react emotionally, but to remain patient and stay committed to the long-term strategy. By doing so, investors are more likely to weather the inevitable ups and downs of the market without being swayed by fear or greed. Moreover, Housel stresses that emotional control doesn't only apply to moments of crisis or market panic. It's also crucial when the market is booming and there's temptation to chase after hot trends or overhyped investments. Greed can be just as dangerous in a bull market as fear is in a bear market, often leading investors to take on unnecessary risks or to invest in speculative assets without fully understanding the risks involved. Ultimately, Housel's message is clear. Emotional discipline is a cornerstone of successful investing. By managing emotions and avoiding knee-jerk reactions to market movements, individuals are more likely to make thoughtful, calculated decisions that align with their financial goals. This emotional control is essential not only in times of market turbulence, but also in creating a mindset of long-term success, where the focus remains on the broader picture and not on short-term fluctuations or momentary market trends. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel explains that what one person considers a risky or crazy financial decision may not be seen the same way by someone else. What seems like a smart move to one person can appear as a reckless risk to another, depending on their personal situation, how much risk they're comfortable with, and their financial goals. However, Housel also points out that there are certain financial choices that are more likely to lead to bad outcomes for most people. For example, taking on too much debt, putting money into risky investments, or not spreading your investments across different assets, called diversification, can often lead to serious problems. While these decisions might seem reasonable at the time, perhaps because they offer high returns or feel like opportunities you can't miss, they can have dangerous consequences if things go wrong. A clear example of this was the 2008 financial crisis, when many people lost everything because they had made risky investments, borrowed too much money, or failed to properly diversify their portfolios. Some people had put all of their savings into one type of investment or into one company. Others took out huge loans to invest in real estate or other high-risk ventures. When the market crashed, these individuals were left with nothing and faced years of financial struggle. The main lesson from the 2008 crisis is that even decisions that seem safe or logical at the time can turn out to be disastrous when unexpected events happen or when the market turns. To avoid these types of financial troubles, it's important to be cautious. A smart financial strategy involves spreading out investments to reduce risk, not borrowing more than you can handle, and being realistic about the potential downsides of your choices. By having a well-thought-out and balanced approach to your finances, you can protect yourself from the worst-case scenarios and work toward long-term financial stability. The recipe for success is often a combination of luck and taking calculated risks. Some people think success is all about luck, but the reality is that achieving goals, especially financial ones, often involves taking risks and making bold choices. Many successful individuals have reached their goals by making smart, well-thought-out decisions that carried some risk. However, jumping into risks without thinking about the possible consequences can lead to failure and financial loss. Luck can definitely play a role in financial success. Sometimes being in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, or even having something lucky like winning the lottery can lead to financial gains. But relying only on luck is not a solid or reliable way to build wealth over time. The true key to success is finding a balance between taking calculated risks and being open to opportunities when they arise. It's also important to understand the risks involved in each decision and know how to protect yourself from those risks. In the end, both luck and risk are factors in financial success. While luck can sometimes help you get ahead, making well-informed, calculated decisions is a more dependable approach to building wealth. By understanding both the potential rewards and risks of any decision, you can make smarter choices that will set you up for long-term financial success. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. For more informative content on finance, entrepreneurship, and self-improvement, subscribe to our channel. We post new videos every other day to help you succeed in various aspects of life. Have a great day and see you in the next one.